All right. Hello, everybody. I'm here with Susan Hillyard today, and we're going to be talking about how we can use what we can learn from theater to use in our remote teaching. So hello, Susan. Thank you so much for being here. Could you please briefly introduce yourself before we start talking about this?
Oh dear, how long have we got?
As long as you want.
Susan Hillyard, I'm from Liverpool in the UK, but I was trained at Warwick University in Warwickshire, very close to Stratford-upon-Avon. And I taught in England in special needs education to begin with. And I think I learned more in that 1 year than I learned in the 4 years I was at university, because it was difficult and I had to change. And in changing, I developed my own personal pedagogy of dramatic teaching or educational drama teaching. And I have put together second language acquisition with educational drama, which was my subject at university. And I've got this very special methodology for teaching students, adults, anybody really. I've done kindergarten, primary, secondary, adults, and teacher training for many years. After England, I went to Singapore and I had to change my head again to understand Chinese culture, Malay culture, and Indian culture. Then I went to Saudi Arabia as head of the English section of a private school, and I had to change my head again, maybe the other way, to understand the Arab mind. And after that, I went to Spain, where I had to change my head again. I don't know now. And I had to understand the Spanish mentality, the Spanish characteristics. And after that, I was in an international school as headmistress there. And after that, I came to Argentina. And I've been teaching in Argentina for 34 years. And I opened my own academy for teachers. It's called Shelter. It's Susan Hillyard's English Language Teachers Academy. And I do all sorts of private professional development sessions, one-on-one. And I also do webinars, conferences. I used to travel a lot before the pandemic hit. And I'm interested mainly in teacher development, teacher transformation through learning how to be creative in the classroom, how to do educational drama, teaching English through educational drama, and also transformation of the teacher identity. So teachers seeing themselves as something more than just being a teacher of the English language, because I believe we are lots more than that. So is that a decent summary?
Well, I wish we could do like 5 of these at least, so you can walk us through all those different mindsets that you've developed over the years. But well, let's start from all that experience and the things you were describing from theater. What can teachers learn from theater?
I've always been fascinated in the idea of how actors and actresses keep us engaged in real theatres, I mean, as an audience, and the actors on a real stage, and how they manage to do it for long periods of time without us even really interacting. So I took that onto the stage of the classroom, and I thought, how can we learn from the theatre combined with educational drama, which is a facilitation medium, in fact, it's not an instructional medium. And how can we make our classrooms more engaging for students, because we all know if the students are engaged, they are motivated. And if they are motivated, they will learn. And if they learn, their self-esteem will go up through the ceiling, and then they will be more motivated, and they will love to learn the English language. They will embrace it, and then they will love being with it. So this was my first idea that I started developing, really. And there are certain things that actors and actresses do on the stage that we can translate to the classroom stage or the Zoom stage. We are more akin now to movie or film actors, because you are teaching remotely and you have a fantastic program, the Sebal program, and you use Zoom platform, don't you?
Well, for Sebal, it's actually another type of video conferencing, but we do have other projects that we use Zoom, like English Without Borders in Colombia.
Okay, fine. So we're talking about video conferencing in general, and it's more difficult to engage students on Zoom than it is in real classrooms, in face-to-face live classrooms. But there are things you can learn, and there are things I can help you with if you really want to learn.
Well, fantastic, because we do. And it's exactly like one of the biggest challenges that we have in remote teaching is to be able to establish this sense of telepresence, and for learners to feel that you've come across the screen, even though you're not sharing the physical space. So how can we achieve that? Do you have any advice for us?
Yes, I think it's really important to explain to the students that this is what we want to establish. We want to establish presence. And when we talk about presence, we are talking about the skills that the actors and actresses have learned over many years through practicing mainly three things: use of voice, use of body, and blocking. Blocking means how you use the space that you're in to put across meaning. And this is what teachers need to do. They need to put across the meaning of what they are teaching and have the students engage with them as though they are really there in the classroom. So it takes quite some time to learn these tricks of the trade, as it were. And the teachers who learn them can always jump out of the screen and can always connect with their students, bring them in. So how do we bring them in? We bring them in by learning what the actors and actresses have spent many years learning to do, so that we can actually reach out to teach them. So it's reach before you teach. You can't teach if you don't reach out of the screen, bring them into you so that they are present with you and you are present with them. So we're talking all the time about presence. We're also talking about being in the present, and that means not having any distractions. So you have to say, especially to the teenagers, switch off your phones, turn them face down so you haven't got the light of your phones luring your eyes over there, because I want your eyes on me. I want to be as alluring to you as your phones are. And how can I do that? I can do that by, first of all, telling you, get rid of your phones. I was in China one year, I think it was 2018, and I went to the STEM Research Center to give a 3-day practical workshop, really, with secondary teachers. And the director of the centre said to all the teachers who came in, there are pockets on the wall over there. Take your phones out now, put your phone in a pocket, and don't even have it near you. So this is something that I tell the teachers to tell their, especially teenagers, but they tell me that it's going lower down now, that primary students also have telephones, have mobile phones. And so they have to judge. It's up to them to decide who they're going to use these techniques with. So that's the first thing, get rid of your phone. So that's one distraction out the way. Try to get them to be in a room on their own, if it's possible. Or are you teaching whole classrooms?
Well, there's a bit of everything. Like in Cebal, the teacher teaches a whole classroom and kids are sharing the physical space. In other programs like English Without Borders, each student connects from their home or from a public space. It varies. So that our techniques have to adapt to those environments as well, right?
Okay, I understand. If it's in the classroom where you've got a lot of students all in the same space, you need to do something that engages all of them. And so one of the things I always start off with, because I believe that students come into the Zoom space, or the video conferencing space, I should say from now on, as real people. And real people have got lots of things in their heads, in their hearts, and in their souls, wherever their soul resides, I do not know. But I know that they come into the classroom, especially the English language classroom, which is a psychologically dangerous place to be. One of the worst things for all human beings is public speaking. Whatever their age, whatever their nationality, people hate, whatever their language, even in their own language, people hate speaking in front of other people. It's something that we grow up with if you don't start doing this work very, very early on. And it's hard if they've already got that feeling inside them to get them to speak in their own language, first of all. And then imagine what it feels like in your second language. I experience it in Spanish. I can speak one-on-one with somebody, but if I have to talk to a crowd, it's really difficult. It's embarrassing, it's psychologically damaging, and it puts you on the spot because you are afraid of making a mistake in the language, which is one thing, and also saying something which other people think is really stupid, or saying something which is completely different from what the teacher thinks or what other people think. So it's very, very complex. So what we have to do is make sure that we calm them down. So breathing is one way in.
Okay, yes, because I was this that you're describing, that it's always a challenge in English lessons. I've experienced it myself as a teacher, but our teachers report that they find it even more challenging when they are teaching remotely, both getting students to participate and getting students to turn on their cameras. Like they feel that students feel more intimidated and wonder what they can do about that.
It's a very, very good question, and one that everybody asks me. And I always say the same thing. Explain to the students that if we are going to have a good lesson, we have to interact. There has to be interaction. You can only learn something by doing something. You can't learn something, especially a language, simply by listening to your teacher. So the teacher has to be a facilitator of learning, wherever she is. Doesn't matter if she's on video, she's teaching remotely, if she's teaching on, remember we used to have Skype. It doesn't matter where you are. You've got to engage and you've got to interact. Two fundamental points. When you're interacting, you need them to participate, and you need them to want to participate, because they understand that if they do, they progress. If the students don't see that they are progressing through interaction, then they won't do it. One of the things I like to do is to go along with mindfulness, which is not a very nice label for me personally, because we've always done that if we know anything about the teaching and learning process. But you can find a lot of strategies on the internet now, and you can do a lot in this area, which now has this label mindfulness and thinks it's something new, which of course it isn't. So look it up, find out how it works, and realize that presence goes along with being in the present, being in the present moment and not distracted, and understanding that it's really important to turn your camera on. If, for example, I turn my video off now, my camera off, what am I? I'm just a voice, and I don't have any personality. I don't have any presence. You can't see me as a real person. In fact, what I've just done to you is to make you blind. Do you want to be in this lesson with me? Do you?
No.
No. No. So this is how it feels. So this is how you can show your students, or maybe get them to understand a little bit better, that it's really important that you can see them. And I always explain to my students, because I'm very rigorous. I'm creative, but I'm rigorous. And I'm strict. And I am the leader here, okay, in this lesson. I am the leader. And I have a lot of professional experience. I trained a long time ago. I've been teaching for 50 years. And you basically need to go along with me, because I know how it works. And you're younger than me, and maybe you haven't been trained. So please put your cameras on. If you don't, I will consider you to be absent. Now, I don't know if you can do that, but I know that if I have a lot of black rectangles in front of me, sometimes with a photograph in, so it's a little bit better, but not always, I don't feel I am connecting with you. So it will reduce my powers of teaching you. So please, I don't care what your background looks like. I don't care if it's a problem for you where you are sitting at this moment. It's not a problem for me. The problem for me is when you turn your camera off and I can't even see another person on the other side. I need to see how you're reacting. I need to be able to read your faces. This is one of the things that I learned to do many, many years ago in the classroom, in the actual physical space. Read people's faces. Imagine how they are thinking by reading their body language. If a student's sitting like this, you know exactly what it means. Yes. Do something about it. Change, do a different activity. Scream at them. Anything you want to do, but wake them up. Because while they're asleep, they're thinking about something completely different. So I can't read your face when you're not on screen. And I can't see how you are interacting with me. when you're not on screen. And I need to see that because I'm very flexible and I can change activities so that I can help you learn the English language. So I know how to facilitate your learning because that is my skill, that is my craft. So I need you to have the cameras on. So please, can we have a class contract where we, between us, decide what our rules are? When I'm with you and you're with me, let's have a list of things that we want from each other and that we expect from each other. And let's all sign them. And let's put them up on the Padlet, all signed, to say, we agree with these things that we together, as a collective, have designed. And so you can have in your class contract, cameras on at all times.
All right.
Microphones off if you want them off. But I like to do a lot of things with the microphones on, even though it sounds terrible. Doesn't matter. We don't mind about this problem that we've got on remote teaching, that we can't control everything, but let's control the things we can to make it better. Does that answer your question in any way?
Oh, yes. And it opens many others, but I don't think we have time to go in depth into each of all and every one of them. But you were mentioning earlier that actors make use of their body, their voice, and blocking. Could you go a bit deeper into that? What kind of techniques can we use about
Yes, I'm going to do some techniques with you when we go into the practical part, but I'll explain that the use of the voice is extremely complex. Basically, you know how actors go into a movie and they're like chameleons. They change their body and they change their voice. They change their gestures and their facial expressions to fit with whatever character they're doing. A perfect actor for that would be somebody like Daniel Day-Lewis. He has played so many different actors with so many different accents, so many different characters. And he does it because he has practiced many, many exercises and tasks to learn how to do it. I could go into this for a year with you, but I'll do some with you. Basically, there are 3 ways to change your voice. One is volume. So sometimes you shout, sometimes you whisper. And you keep people's attention by changing the sound of your voice, by changing the volume. You also can change your voice through pitch. You can do a little baby voice, or you can do a giant's voice, but you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware of what you sound like when you're doing remote teaching. Some teachers have a very high voice like this, and it drives me mad, and I cannot listen to them for very long because So you have to raise your own awareness of what your voice sounds like. And if you have that, you have to take it down, tone. You have to learn to do that. And you have to remember that if you get excited about something or emotional about something or very moved by something, your voice is likely to go back to its original sound. It's likely to do that on its own. So you have to control it. And you have to know when to whisper and when to shout. And then there's another way of controlling it, and that is how fast you go. I was on a webinar a few days ago, and the person was speaking far too quickly for me. Her English was absolutely perfect, and I could understand every word she was saying, but I couldn't follow the concepts. because she was just speaking too fast and she wasn't giving me any think time at all. So you have to remember where the pauses are. You have to make sure that sometimes you have silence or silences. Those are the three ways, basically. So it's volume, pace, and pitch. That's voice. And then body, you have to learn what message you are putting over with your body language. How do I bring you in with how I use my body? How do I make you feel that I am reaching you, bringing you in? How do I make you feel that I am authentic, that I am genuine, and that I haven't learned these tricks to fool you or to deceive you? I have learned them because I want to help you learn. And you have to smile. Very important to smile. I've seen some people who do a webinar like this, and they say, it's very important to be very welcoming when your students come into the classroom. You know, make your body and your voice echo the meaning of what you're actually saying. We all know that the words we use are nowhere near as important as the body language we use to say those words, or the tone that we use. How do you make the tone, the intonation, the modulation enhance what you are teaching? So it's very, 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 very complex. And you can only learn this through practice. You can only learn it by doing and practicing and trying it out and saying to yourself, oh, that lesson wasn't really very good the other day. Why not? Keeping a journal of how your lessons actually go, and then working on the things that are in your journal and have action points. So you say to yourself, oh, I'm going to try to have less teacher talk next class, or I'm going to make sure that I bring my tone down next class, or I'm going to have the students use their bodies so that they understand how I'm using my body too. It goes both ways every time. So what we're talking about is the quality of your voice, the quality, well, first of all, the quality of your thinking. Secondly, the quality of your motivation to improve. Thirdly, the quality of your voice. Fourthly, the quality of your body language. And then the quality of your interactive tasks. They've got to be tasks, and they've got to have an objective, and they've got to be something that the students enjoy doing and are worthwhile.
Well, thank you, Susan. Those are all very useful tips and considerations that we definitely need to have when teaching remotely. So I'm sure that everybody would like to see those things in action. So maybe we can move on to our second part of this conversation, which is a demonstration of all of the things that Susan has been talking about.
Not all.
Well,
not
some of the
all.
things. Thank you very much,
Just
Susan.
a few. Okay. Thank you.